Your position no longer exists, Diana. The words hung in the meeting room as 20 pairs of eyes fixed on me. My manager, Trevor, had called an emergency department meeting on a Tuesday morning. I'd arrived 5 minutes late with coffee in hand, apologizing as I slid into the last empty chair. I hadn't even taken my first sip when he said it. I don't understand, I said, my voice smaller than intended. Trevor cleared his throat. The leadership team has reviewed our organizational structure and determined your role is redundant. This is effective immediately. The coffee trembled in my hand. 5 years at Sunway Technologies ended with 11 words, in front of everyone. There's a box at your desk, Trevor continued, refusing to meet my gaze. Security will escort you out once you've collected your things. I looked around the table. Faces I'd worked alongside for years suddenly became strangers. Some stared at their laptops. Others gave tight, uncomfortable smiles. Only Prisha, my closest work friend, looked genuinely horrified. I stood slowly, dignity fighting against humiliation. I see. The severance package is generous, Trevor added quickly. 2 months' salary. HR has the paperwork ready. I nodded once and walked out. At my desk, a cardboard box sat like a coffin for my career. I placed my few personal items inside. A small plant, 2 framed photos, a ceramic mug my niece had painted. The security guard, Miguel, stood awkwardly nearby, murmuring that he was sorry. 20 minutes later, I walked through the glass doors of Sunway Technologies for what I thought was the last time. No goodbye party, no cards signed by colleagues, just the weight of a half-empty box and the afternoon sun beating down on my face. I drove home in silence, parked in my apartment complex, and sat motionless, staring at nothing. Then I screamed. I pounded the steering wheel until my palms stung. Tears came next, hot and furious. My phone buzzed at 6:07 in the evening. It was Sunway's human resources number. I declined the call. It rang again, and again, and again. By 6:43 in the evening, I had 17 missed calls. Voicemails began to pile up. Texts from coworkers I barely knew asked if I could please call the office. At 7:52 in the evening, there was a knock on my apartment door. Through the peephole, I saw Alan Wright, the chief executive officer of Sunway Technologies, standing in my hallway. I opened the door but blocked the entrance. "Diana," he said, his typical boardroom confidence nowhere to be seen. "We need to talk. The company is in trouble. Big trouble." "That sounds like a you problem," I replied. His face paled. "Production has completely stopped. Nothing works. We're losing thousands by the minute." I leaned against the doorframe. And we need you back, right now." I smiled for the first time that day. "You finally realized what I've been protecting all this time, haven't you?" If you're enjoying this story of workplace betrayal and sweet justice, hit that like button and subscribe for more tales of revenge served ice cold. Comment what you'd do in Diana's shoes. Would you help the company that just tossed you aside? My name is Diana Everell, and until today, I was the systems integration specialist at Sunway Technologies. At 34, I'd spent my best working years there, climbing from IT support to creating a position that didn't exist before me. I'm not what most people picture when they think tech wizard. I don't code for fun on weekends or collect vintage computers. I studied anthropology in college, fell into an IT help desk job to pay bills, and discovered I had a knack for understanding how systems, both technological and human, interact with each other. My apartment reflects this duality. Bookshelves with technical manuals next to anthropology textbooks, tribal masks from my fieldwork hanging above my workstation with 3 monitors. I live alone except for a one-eyed cat named Pixel who judges my life choices from various high perches. "May I come in?" Alan asked, straightening his expensive tie. I considered saying no, but curiosity won out. I stepped aside. Alan entered cautiously, like he was walking into a negotiation he knew he'd lose. His eyes darted around my apartment, probably expecting pizza boxes and self-help books for the recently fired. "Nice place," he said. "You didn't come to discuss my decorating." I motioned to the couch. "Sit, explain." He perched on the edge of my sofa. "The production line went down 30 minutes after you left. At first, we thought it was coincidence. And now, 3 factories stopped. Customer orders halted. It can't get anything running." He pulled out his phone, showing me a real-time dashboard glowing angry red. "We're bleeding money by the second." I sat across from him, saying nothing. "Trevor didn't understand your role," Alan continued. "None of us did. On paper, you managed outdated systems, but But those outdated systems run everything, I finished. The new software your hotshot consultants implemented? It doesn't talk to our manufacturing equipment without constant translation. Alan's face fell. Which you provided, every day for 5 years. The truth was, Sunway operated on infrastructure from 3 different decades. When they acquired smaller companies, they inherited legacy systems nobody understood. Rather than properly upgrading everything, expensive and disruptive, they kept adding software layers on top, like paint over rotting wood. I became the human middleware connecting these incompatible systems. I wrote scripts each morning to sync inventory. I manually transferred production data between platforms. I created workarounds when the expensive new customer portal couldn't communicate with our actual manufacturing process. None of this showed in my job description. The executives saw me as someone babysitting outdated computers. The consultants who recommended eliminating my position never bothered to track what I actually did all day. Diana, I'll be blunt. We need you back. Tonight. Name your price. I laughed. You think this is about money? Double your salary. Triple it. I stood up and walked to the window. Outside, city lights blinked on as dusk settled. My reflection looked different somehow. Stronger. For 5 years, I warned about our infrastructure problems. For 5 years, I was ignored. I wrote reports explaining the risks. I proposed transition plans. I requested meetings. All denied or dismissed. Alan shifted uncomfortably. We should have listened. Yes, you should have. I turned to face him. But instead, you humiliated me today, in front of my colleagues. That was Trevor's decision, not mine. You approved it. He couldn't deny it. What do you want, Diana? That was the question, wasn't it? What did I want? Revenge came to mind, letting them suffer the consequences of their arrogance. But was that enough? I need to think, I said finally. Go back to the office. Try to contain the damage. I'll call you in the morning with my decision. We don't have until morning, he said, panic edging into his voice. Major clients have deadlines tomorrow. If we miss them, then you shouldn't have fired the only person keeping everything running. I walked to the door and opened it. Good night, Alan. After he left, I poured a glass of wine and sat on my balcony. My phone continued buzzing with desperate messages. Part of me wanted to help. I'd built those connections, nurtured those systems. But another part, a growing part, recognized an opportunity I might never get again. By midnight, I'd made my decision. I picked up my phone and made one call, not to Alan or Sunway, but to someone else entirely, someone who would help me transform this betrayal into something much more powerful than a mere return to status quo. Hello, Raj. It's Diana. Remember that conversation we had last month? I'm ready to discuss it further. Can you meet for breakfast? As I hung up, a plan began forming, one that would make Sunway regret ever underestimating me. By 7 the next morning, I sat across from Raj Mehta at a small breakfast place, 3 blocks from my apartment. Raj ran a tech consultancy specializing in industrial systems and had been trying to recruit me for over a year. So they actually fired you, he said, stirring his coffee. After everything you built for them, I nodded, watching steam rise from my untouched tea. 5 years gone in 30 seconds. And now they're desperate. Raj leaned forward. This is exactly what I warned you about, Diana. You made yourself invisible, too good at solving problems without recognition. He wasn't wrong. My greatest professional strength had become my undoing. I'd created solutions so seamless that nobody understood what I actually did. When budget cuts came, I looked expendable on paper. Their main production facility in Detroit is completely offline, I said. The Phoenix and Charlotte plants are running at maybe 15% capacity. Customer orders are backing up. Their quarterly earnings call is next week. Raj whistled low. They're toast. Alan offered to triple my salary if I come back. And? I took a deep breath. I'm not going back. At least not as an employee. Raj grinned. Now we're talking. Join my team. We'll offer Sunway consulting services at premium rates. They'll pay whatever we ask. No, I said. I'm starting my own firm. His smile faltered. Diana, that's risky. You've never run a business. With me, you'd have infrastructure, existing clients, support staff. I've spent 5 years being undervalued, Raj. I'm done letting others profit from my expertise. He studied me for a long moment. You're serious? Completely. But I could use an ally. I slid a folder across the table. This is a proposal for a strategic partnership. Your firm handles the clients you already have. Mine specializes in legacy system integration and rescue operations. We refer business to each other. Split fees on joint projects. He opened the folder, eyebrows rising as he read. You prepared all this overnight? I've been planning an exit for months. Just didn't expect it to happen quite this way. After an hour of negotiation, we shook hands. Raj would help me establish my company quickly, provide temporary office space, and introduce me to potential clients. In return, I'd collaborate on existing projects where his team struggled with outdated systems. By 9, I called Alan. His voice was ragged with exhaustion. Diana, thank God. When can you start? I'm not coming back as an employee, I said calmly. What do you mean? I've launched my own consultancy, Everell Systems Integration. If Sunway wants my help, you'll need to hire my firm. Silence stretched between us. You can't be serious. My standard rate is $350 per hour, with a 100-hour minimum retainer up front. Emergency response like your current situation includes a premium. The contract is already drafted. I can email it over. This is extortion, he spluttered. This is business, Alan. You eliminated my position because you didn't value what I did. Now you understand my worth. The market sets the price. After 15 minutes of negotiation and threatened legal action, Alan agreed to my terms. By noon, I had signed contracts and a wire transfer confirmation for my first week's retainer. I didn't go to Sunway immediately. Instead, I spent the afternoon setting up my business, registering the LLC, opening accounts, creating a simple website. Let them sweat a little longer. At 4 p.m., I walked through Sunway's glass doors wearing the same clothes I'd left in the day before. The security guard did a double take as I signed in. Miss Everell? I thought. Never mind. Do you need an escort? No thanks, Miguel. I know my way around. The executive floor buzzed with frantic energy. Assistants scurried between offices. Through glass walls, I saw board members gesticulating in the main conference room. Nobody noticed me until I reached the IT department. The scene there stopped me cold. My former colleagues looked shell-shocked. Empty coffee cups littered desks. Some had clearly been there all night. Prisha spotted me first, her exhausted face lighting up. Diana, she rushed over, whispering, it's a nightmare. Nothing works. Trevor's been locked in his office crying since midnight. Where's the crisis team working? I asked. She pointed to the large project room. Inside, 24 people surrounded whiteboards covered with diagrams of Sunway's systems architecture, most of it wrong. I pushed open the door. Conversations halted mid-sentence. All eyes turned to me. Alan stood at the front, tie loosened, sleeves rolled up. Diana's here as a consultant, he announced. She'll be leading the recovery effort. I set down my bag. Everyone not directly involved with systems or production, please leave. Half the room cleared out. Corporate communications, legal, HR. The efficiency consultants who'd recommended my termination slunk away without meeting my gaze. Let's start with what's actually happening, I said, erasing the incorrect diagrams. Your problem isn't a software failure. It's a communication breakdown between 5 different systems that I was manually bridging every day. For the next 3 hours, I explained Sunway's actual technical infrastructure, not the idealized version in their documentation, but the messy reality. Most of their critical production data flowed through makeshift connections I'd created and maintained. Why wasn't any of this documented? Demanded Garrett, the CTO who'd joined 6 months ago. I turned to him slowly. It was. I submitted comprehensive documentation quarterly. I filed enhancement requests monthly. I presented at your first executive committee meeting. His face reddened. I don't recall. February 12th. You checked emails during my presentation and then said, and I quote, let's table legacy systems discussions for now and focus on future state architecture. The room went quiet. Garrett stared at his shoes. By 9 p.m., we had emergency protocols in place to get basic production running. By midnight, I'd trained a team on temporary workarounds that would keep things moving while we developed permanent solutions. I left at 2 a.m., exhausted but satisfied, not because I'd helped Sunway, though I had, but because every person in that room now understood exactly what I did and what I was worth. Same time tomorrow? Alan asked as I packed up. My contract specifies remote work when possible, I replied. I'll dial in for the morning briefing. His smile tightened. Diana, we need you here. On site. I zipped my laptop bag. Then you should have kept me on staff, Alan. Now you get me on my terms, not yours. As I walked out, Trevor emerged from his office, eyes red. He'd been conspicuously absent all day. Diana, he began. I kept walking. For the next 2 weeks, I worked 18-hour days stabilizing Sunway's systems, not from their offices, but from a sleek co-working space Raj helped me secure. I joined meetings virtually, my face on screens around their conference tables. I trained their staff remotely. I documented everything properly. By day 10, Sunway's production reached 80% capacity. By day 14, they were fully operational again. My initial contract ended, and Alan requested a 6-month extension. "We need to rebuild everything properly," he said during our video call. "You're the only one who understands how all the pieces fit together." I named my new price, double my already premium rate. He agreed, without blinking. Meanwhile, I hired my first 2 employees, brilliant system architects who'd been overlooked at their companies. We secured a small office space. Raj referred 3 new clients to us, smaller companies facing similar integration challenges. 4 weeks after my humiliating dismissal, I sat in a conference room at Palmer Industries, Sunway's biggest competitor. Their CEO, Vanessa Palmer, had reached out directly. "We've heard impressive things about your work," she said. "Our growth has created similar integration challenges." Their technical team outlined problems nearly identical to Sunway's. Different systems, same communication failures. "We can help," I said confidently. "But there's something you should know. Sunway Technologies is our largest client. If that creates a conflict." Vanessa waved dismissively. "We're aware. That's partly why we want to work with you. Anyone who can rescue them from their self-created disaster is someone we want on our side." I left with another signed contract. On my drive home, my phone rang. Alan again. "Diana, we need to talk about our arrangement," he said, his voice tense. "The board is questioning the rates we're paying your firm." "The rates you agreed to," I corrected. "Yes, but now that the emergency has passed." "Has it? Your quarterly earnings call revealed a 15% drop in production for Q2. Your stock fell 12 points. You're still running on temporary fixes." He sighed. "That's why we need to bring this work in-house. We'd like to offer you your old position back, director level, substantial equity package." I pulled into my parking spot and turned off the engine. "No, Diana, be reasonable. This arrangement isn't sustainable. For you, perhaps. For me, it's quite sustainable." I paused. "I'm meeting with Palmer Industries tomorrow. Should I tell them I'm exclusive to Sunway now?" The silence was deafening. Finally, "You're consulting for Palmer? That's a direct competitor." "I'm consulting for 7 companies now, Alan. 3 in your industry. My firm is growing. We're hiring." This feels vindictive. I watched a family playing with their dog in the park across from my building. "No, Alan. This is capitalism. The same system that made it easy for you to eliminate my position has made it possible for me to build something better." I ended the call and sat there, watching the sunset paint the sky, orange and pink. My phone buzzed with a text from Prisha. "Heard rumor. Palmer hired your firm. True?" Whole office talking. I smiled and typed back, "Very true. Want to get coffee this weekend? Have a job offer you might find interesting." 3 months passed in a blur of growth and opportunity. My dining room table became Everell Systems Integration Headquarters, then a small office downtown, and finally a full floor in a sleek building with a view of the river. We grew from just me to a team of 12, specialists in legacy systems, integration architects, and project managers. I hired Prisha as my operations director. She gave notice at Sunway the Monday after our coffee meeting. "Trevor looked like he might actually faint," she told me, setting up her new desk. "He asked if you put me up to it. And you said?" "I said you offered me double my salary and equity in a growing company." He didn't have a response for that. By month 4, we had contracts with 15 clients across 3 industries. Sunway remained our largest account, but their share of our revenue dropped from 100% to barely 30%. I limited my personal involvement there to weekly strategy sessions, assigning day-to-day work to my team. Alan hated this arrangement. "We're paying premium rates for Diana Everell," he complained during one video call. "Not her junior staff." "My junior staff includes former senior architects from Microsoft and IBM," I replied calmly. "And our contract specifies Everell Systems Integration Services, not exclusively my time." He'd grown increasingly desperate as our leverage shifted. Sunway's recovery was slower than projected. Their stock continued to struggle. Shareholders asked pointed questions about operational stability. One Tuesday morning, Alan requested an urgent meeting, in person, at Sunway headquarters. "What's this about?" I asked Prisha, who managed my calendar. He wouldn't say, just that it's confidential and can't be discussed remotely. Warning bells rang in my head. Schedule it for tomorrow, and ask Raj to join us. The next day, Raj and I walked into Sunway's lobby together. The receptionist's eyes widened slightly. She clearly hadn't expected two people. "Mr. Wright is waiting in the executive conference room," she said, handing us visitor badges. As we rode the elevator, Raj murmured, "Something feels off. You were smart to bring backup." The conference room door opened to reveal not just Alan, but Sunway's entire executive team, plus two men in expensive suits I didn't recognize. "Diana," Alan said tightly, "we weren't expecting Mr. Mehta." "Raj is my business advisor," I replied, taking a seat. "What's this about?" Alan nodded to one of the strangers, who slid folders across the table. "I'm David Kellerman, corporate counsel," he said. "We've prepared a cease and desist regarding your work with Palmer Industries and other Sunway competitors." I didn't touch the folder. "On what grounds?" "Conflict of interest and misappropriation of proprietary information." Raj laughed openly. "You're claiming Diana has shared Sunway's secrets with competitors?" "She has intimate knowledge of our systems," Garrett, the CTO, interjected. "Knowledge gained as our employee." I leaned forward. "Knowledge gained building solutions you never bothered to understand. There's nothing proprietary about the fact that you run a patchwork of incompatible systems." "Nevertheless," Kellerman continued, "we believe a court would find merit in our position. We're prepared to pursue this aggressively." The threat hung in the air. They expected me to crumble, a solo entrepreneur intimidated by their legal resources. They didn't know I'd anticipated this move. "Open the other folder, please," I said quietly. Alan frowned but complied. His eyes widened as he scanned the document inside. "This is a lawsuit," he said. "Yes, for wrongful termination, defamation, and tortious interference with business relationships." I kept my voice steady. "I haven't filed it yet, but I will if you pursue your baseless claims." "You can't be serious," Garrett sputtered. "I have documented evidence that my termination was part of a discriminatory pattern. Sunway eliminated roles held by women and minorities at twice the rate of those held by white men during your reorganization. I also have communications showing Mr. Wright knew my actual job functions, but misrepresented them to justify my termination." The color drained from Alan's face. "That's not true. Your own emails say otherwise. The ones where you told Trevor to find a way to move Diana out 3 weeks before claiming my position was redundant." The room went silent. I hadn't actually seen those emails, but Alan's reaction confirmed my suspicion. "Additionally," Raj added smoothly, "we've documented 7 instances where Sunway representatives contacted Everell's clients, suggesting our work was compromised by conflicts." That part was true. 2 clients had forwarded us concerned messages from Sunway's sales team. Kellerman whispered something to Alan, who nodded grimly. "Perhaps we can find a middle path," Alan offered. "A mutual non-disparagement agreement, exclusive arrangements with certain clients." "No," I said simply. "Here's what's going to happen. You'll withdraw any objections to my firm working with whomever we choose. You'll continue our existing contract at current rates, and you'll provide a written reference attesting to the quality of our work. Or," Garrett challenged, "or we walk away completely. Today. No notice period, no knowledge transfer, no documentation of the temporary fixes currently holding your production systems together." 6 pairs of eyes stared at me. They knew I wasn't bluffing. "We need time to discuss this privately," Alan said finally. Raj and I waited in the lobby for 45 minutes. When we returned, only Alan and Kellerman remained. "We accept your terms," Alan said, not meeting my eyes. I nodded. "I'll have my attorney draft the agreement." As we left, Raj shook his head in admiration. "That was masterful. You knew exactly which pressure points to hit." "I learned from the best teachers," I replied. "People who thought I wasn't paying attention." The confrontation with Sunway marked a turning point. Word spread quickly through the industry about a small firm that stood up to a corporate giant, and won. Clients sought us out, often specifically requesting the Sunway solution. 6 months after my firing, Everell Systems Integration had 30 employees and a wait list of potential clients. We specialized in exactly what I'd done at Sunway, creating bridges between incompatible systems that larger consultancies deemed not worth saving. Our reputation grew for saving companies millions by extending the life of existing infrastructure rather than forcing costly replacements. Trade publications requested interviews. Competitors tried to poach our staff. Venture capital firms called with investment offers. Through it all, I maintained our contract with Sunway, though I personally spent less than 2 hours weekly on their account. I assigned them our newest team members as a training ground. They knew it but couldn't complain, not without risking the fragile systems I'd rebuilt for them. Then came the call that changed everything. Diana Everell, this is Caroline Westing, chairwoman of Sunway's board. I sat up straighter at my desk. Miss Westing, how can I help you? I'll be direct. The board has lost confidence in our current executive leadership. The production failures earlier this year, followed by 2 quarters of declining performance, have forced us to make changes. My pulse quickened. I'm sorry to hear that. Alan Wright has been asked to resign, effective immediately. Several other executives will follow. I said nothing, waiting. We're implementing a strategic restructuring, she continued. Part of that includes bringing critical functions back in-house. Your systems integration work tops that list. Here it was. They wanted to terminate our contract. I'd anticipated this eventually. I understand, I said carefully. We can coordinate an orderly transition. That's not why I'm calling, she interrupted. I'm calling to discuss acquisition. I nearly dropped the phone. Acquisition? Sunway wishes to acquire Everell Systems Integration. Full purchase. You and your team would become our internal systems division, with you as CTO. The offer was staggering. Nearly $30 million, plus executive positions for me and my leadership team, generous stock options, and operational autonomy. This is unexpected, I managed. We recognize that you've built something valuable, Diana. Something Sunway needs. The board believes bringing your company inside our organization is the most prudent path forward. I promise to consider the offer and discuss it with my team. After hanging up, I sat motionless, staring out my office window at the city below. Prisha found me there an hour later. Everything okay? You missed the product team meeting. Sunway wants to buy us, I said quietly. Her eyes widened. Buy as in? Acquire. Fold us into their organization. Make me CTO. Wow. She sank into the chair opposite me. What are you thinking? I turned from the window. I'm thinking about a meeting room 14 floors up in their building. About 20 faces watching as my career was ended in 30 seconds. And now they want you back. They want what we've built. I gestured to our office beyond the glass walls. Bright, energetic, collaborative. They want to own it. For 2 weeks, I kept the offer to myself, sharing it only with Prisha and Raj. We examined it from every angle. The money was extraordinary, the positions powerful, the validation complete. At the end of those 2 weeks, I requested a meeting with Caroline Westing and Sunway's board. The boardroom was intimidating. All dark wood and leather chairs. 12 board members seated on one side, just me on the other. No Prisha, no Raj. Just me facing the power structure that had once dismissed me without a second thought. Thank you for meeting with us, Miss Everell, Caroline began. Have you reached a decision regarding our offer? I opened my portfolio and removed a single sheet of paper. I have. The tension in the room was palpable. Some board members leaned forward eagerly. Before I share my decision, I want to tell you what happened the day I was fired. Caroline frowned slightly. I'm not sure I was humiliated in front of my colleagues, escorted out by security. No one called to check if I was okay. No one thanked me for 5 years of service. I was discarded. The room grew uncomfortably silent. When your systems collapsed, I came back. Not because I cared about Sunway, but because I saw an opportunity to build something for myself. Something better. I slid the paper across the table. It wasn't the signed acquisition agreement they expected. This is our new contract proposal. Everell Systems Integration will continue providing services to Sunway as an independent firm. The terms are favorable. Lower rates than you're currently paying. Guaranteed response times. Dedicated staff. Caroline picked up the paper. Confusion evident. You're declining our acquisition offer? I am. May I ask why? The financial package was generous, I acknowledged. But I didn't build my company to sell it back to the people who didn't value me. I built it to never be at the mercy of anyone like them again. I stood up, gathering my things. My company serves 16 major clients now. We're expanding internationally next quarter. We're developing proprietary tools that will make system integration more efficient across multiple industries. A board member at the far end spoke up. We could go to your competitors. Buy one of them instead. I smiled. You absolutely should explore all your options. But you'll find no one does what we do quite the way we do it. That's why you came to me first. As I walked toward the door, Caroline called after me. Diana, the board can improve the offer. Significantly. I paused, hand on the doorknob. It was never about the money, Miss Westing. It was about respect. The time to show that was before you lost me, not after. The next day, Sunway's board accepted our contract proposal. 2 weeks later, they announced a new CEO and executive team, none of whom had been involved in my termination. 1 year to the day after being told your position no longer exists, I stood before my company of now 58 employees, cutting a cake shaped like our logo. To Everell Systems Integration, Prisha toasted, and to Diana, who turned rejection into an empire, the office erupted in cheers. As I looked around at the team we'd built, diverse, brilliant, valued, I realized the perfect revenge wasn't making Sunway suffer. It wasn't even becoming wealthy from their desperation. The perfect revenge was creating something they could never own, something that existed because they underestimated me, something that thrived because I no longer needed their approval or permission. Later that evening, as we wrapped up the celebration, a delivery arrived, a large arrangement of flowers. The card read simply, "Respect earned is better than respect given. Congratulations on your success, Caroline Westing." I placed the flowers on our front reception desk, where clients and visitors would see them first. A reminder that sometimes, the best response to being undervalued is not to prove others wrong, but to prove yourself right. If you've ever been underestimated, overlooked, or pushed aside, I hope this story gave you a spark of inspiration. Sometimes our greatest opportunities come disguised as our worst setbacks. Like, comment, and subscribe if you want more tales of resilience and reinvention. And share your own story in the comments. When has rejection led you to something better than you could have imagined?